information that CISA has released, and we strongly encourage everyone to follow their guidance to upgrade and patch accordingly. I think you can understand for operations of operational security, I'm not going to be able to get into the status of our network operations or information systems at this time. Okay. Janie.
Thank you, Don. On the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, and the fiscal year 2022 Defense Authorization Act passed the U.S. Senate this week.
I'm sorry, has what?
Has passed this week.
Passed to the Senate, yes.
You may take off.
You can take it off if you like.
All right. And the restriction on the reduction of U.S. forces in South Korea has been removed. So are you going to keep the 28,500 U.S. troops in South Korea at the current level?
So you're right, it passed the Senate. The President hasn't signed it into law, so I'm not going to get ahead of the President, but I can assure you that there's no plans, no intention to change our alliance posture in any way. And the Secretary said as much, as you know, when we were in Seoul just a couple of weeks ago.
That's what I was trying to ask you.
Yeah.
You already answered.
And any changes at all, not that I'm predicting any. We're committed to this alliance and to keeping our force posture there. You saw that was referenced in the Global Posture Review. But any changes whatever will always be done as an alliance decision in lockstep with our South Korean allies.
So any numbers not changing, like 28,000?
I'm not here to announce or to signal or to in any way provide an indication that there's going to be a change in posture on the Korean Peninsula. And again, I'd point you back to the Secretary's comments when we were in Seoul.
Thank you.
Yep. Abraham.
Yeah, thanks, Don. Two questions related now. I wondered if you could update us on the situation of the Russian troop buildup on the border of Ukraine. Is there anything different there? And then also, Secretary Austin, of course, completed the Global Force Posture Review, but there have been no announcements about movements in some of the NATO Eastern Flank. Allies are obviously interested in bolstering up the Eastern Flank. Are there going to be any announcements about possible new troop rotations anywhere in the world?
No. Next question.
Ukraine?
I'm just kidding. We continue to monitor the situation in Russia, Ukraine, of course. I don't have, as I've tried not to do, to get into intelligence assessments here from the podium. I'm not going to do that. But we haven't seen any significant changes in the posture of Russian forces arrayed around the Ukrainian border. They are still there in large number, and that's as far as I think I'm going to go. And then as to your second question, I have no new rotational deployments to speak to in terms of our NATO allies. We have a lot of capability in the region. That capability is still there. Some of it is fixed, some of it is rotational. And as you heard Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, say, if there's an incursion, another incursion, and if some of our NATO allies ask for additional capabilities or rotational elements, we will be positively disposed to consider that, but I have no such request to speak to and no movements to speak to today. Tara.
Thanks, John. On the air power summary report, going forward, will the department commit to continuing to release airstrike data in Afghanistan? And in that vein, have there been any U.S. airstrikes in Afghanistan since the withdrawal was complete?
There have been no airstrikes in Afghanistan since the withdrawal is complete. And yes, we are committed to providing summaries should that be the case. Just that's why we're trying to get back to these air power summary reports, which they're published by AFCENT, and so Afghanistan would still fall within their writ.
Will those strikes include DoD conducted strikes only, or if there's a strike conducted by another government organization, would those also be counted in the data?
My understanding, and I will check this after the briefing, but my understanding is it's U.S. only. We're responsible for our, for our missions, so it'll be U.S. only. But I'll just double check that. Yeah, Rio.
Thank you.
Yesterday, the Biden administration added China's Academy of Military Medical Sciences to the export blacklist for helping the Chinese military to develop brain control weapons. So could you give us a sense of the DoD's assessment on what such weapons might do in greater detail, and how much is the DoD concerned about the Chinese military using such weapons in the battlefield in the future?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question. What weapons are we talking about?
The brain-controlled weapons.
Brain-controlled weapons?
Controlled weapons.
Okay. I tell you what, Rio, I don't have control of my brain today, so I'm going to take the question, and we'll get back to you on that one. That's a very specific question that I was not prepared for, so we'll take it and get back to you.
Let me want that one taken.
What's that?
We want that one on camera. How about Monday?
Brain-controlled weapons. All right. Okay. We can do both. I can take it and send it out, and if you want, I can read it out on Monday as well. But I wasn't. I don't have anything for you on that one. Let me go to the phones. Sylvie?
Hello, John. My question was asked. Thank you.
Brain-controlled weapons. All right. David Martin? Okay, Dave, we'll come back to you if we missed you. Oren from CNN?
John, there are now 7 Republican governors, that includes Oklahoma's governor, who are asking for a withdrawal or a retraction or an exemption from the National Guard vaccine mandate. Obviously, he's already responded to Oklahoma. When might he respond to the other governors, and is there any indication or suggestion that for any reason the response would be any different?
We have not responded to those letters yet. We just got them. In fact, I think the latest one came in last night. Obviously, we will respond appropriately to the governors regarding their concerns. I would just say that, as we said to the Oklahoma governor, this is a valid military medical requirement, the vaccine. It makes for a more ready force, and it is in the Secretary's authorities to set those mandatory military readiness requirements. Did you have one? Yeah, go ahead.
In follow-up, the governor of Texas said something to the effect of he was accusing the federal government of trying to defund Texas if they made them enforce the mandate. To your knowledge, has the Pentagon ever said anything about defunding?
No, and I think, as you probably recall in our response to Governor Stitt in Oklahoma, that what we said was that failure to get the vaccine could put you, as the individual guardsman, your participation in the National Guard in jeopardy, because your pay, your ability to train, your ability to go on, to get military-funded education. It's really about your individual participation. There was never a threat to defund the National Guard in any state. Tony?
A couple questions in a couple different areas. The United Arab Emirates F-35 issue, did that come up in the discussions with Dr. Kahl in joint military dialogue?
I would tell you, Tony, that it was not a focus of the discussions.
All right. Yesterday you said we're always concerned about technology transfer to nations that have an adversarial view of our commitment to a rules-based international order. What nations were you talking about there? China and the United Arab Emirates relationship, or Iran, or Saudi Arabia?
There are several nations that would fall into that category, Tony.
Would China and the UAE relationship fall into that category?
You don't have to look far to see evidence that China continues to challenge the international rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific and beyond.
Is the U.S. concerned then that China might have the access to F-35 technology that we're selling?
I'm not going to go beyond what I said yesterday.
Okay. A little closer to home. On Monday, the Pentagon Inspector General put out a report on TransDigm, one of the Pentagon's top sole source provider of spare parts. 2019, there was a similar IG report came out, and it concluded that TransDigm was getting excess profits. Monday, they reported that TransDigm got excess profits of $20.8 million. What steps has the Pentagon taken since that earlier IG report to arm its contracting people with better information or better tools to extract information from TransDigm that could lead to cheaper parts and potentially?
I think you saw that the DoD IG offered some recommendations on this. Three of them in particular we've accepted all three, including trying to work on a refund to improve alternate contracting policies and several others. So without going into more detail than that, I mean, we appreciate the work that the IG did and we're going to accept and follow their recommendations.
So just in layman's language, the recommendation is to extract a refund from TransDigm, $20.8 million. Does DoD intend to do that? To go ask TransDigm for a refund?
Yeah. So I mean, again, we appreciate the work of the IG. It did highlight challenges that contracting officers now experience procuring parts, including their ability to obtain data to determine fair and reasonable prices. As noted, they recommended that we seek a voluntary refund, and we're gonna do that. And then, like I said, the other two recommendations that we're going to pursue. One is to have the Defense Pricing and Contracting Director review the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations information for the current policy as it pertains to this issue, and then to also identify alternative options for purchasing items from countries, from companies. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have any updates on the schedule for upcoming use Japan 2+2? What's going to be a kind of the top line for DoD?
Looking forward to the discussion. I will have more to say as we get closer to it. Obviously, Japan is a key ally in the region, and that's why it was right on the front end of the Secretary's first international trip to go to Tokyo. I won't get ahead of the agenda specifically, but you can imagine there is an awful lot to discuss. Common security challenges in the Indo-Pacific will be chief among them, including the aggressive behavior that China continues to demonstrate, the threat continue to be posed by North Korea and their missile program. Lots to talk about. Yeah. Let me get back to the phones here. Louis Martinez, are you there?
Hey, John. I have a couple of COVID questions, if I could, please. You've mentioned that there are active discussions about whether to mandate a booster. Does that include, as part of that discussion, are you gathering data about how many personnel have actually received a booster shot?
I'm not aware of any active effort to gather that data, Louis, but I'll take your question and just check and make sure that I'm right about that. There are still discussions about whether or not to make it mandatory. No decision has been made.
Thanks. And my other question has to do with Omicron. We're seeing these large increasing numbers in magnitude of cases nationwide. Does the military undertake sequencing so that they can determine whether the number of cases that they're experiencing may be Omicron versus Delta? And are you seeing a surge, and is that leading to concerns that you may have to tighten restrictions at bases?
We did see a surge in Delta. I'm not aware of a surge in Omicron. Again, I will go back and look and see if we've got data on that. As you know, we had already tightened up, reverted to more tight restrictions across the department because of Delta and the effect it was having on our own workforce. I'm not aware of any. Let me put it this way: across the department, we are complying with CDC guidelines and continue to do that. Obviously, we respect installation commanders and their ability to moderate, as long as they don't go below CDC guidelines, moderate appropriately given the conditions where they are, because the conditions in local communities can be different. So I'm not aware of any uniform mandatory changes of late. But again, let me go back and take a look at the status of Omicron in the department before I say anything more.
Does the Pentagon do sequencing after that?
Yeah, I'm going to check. I don't know, Jen. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
Thank you. There's reporting now about exhaustion among a lot of the civilian healthcare workforce, as well as hospital capacity issues on the horizon. So against that backdrop, the question of immunization for the reserve, the National Guard, does that take on another dimension of importance, or do you have any comment on that? Is there planning underway, for instance, looking ahead in case there is another wave of COVID with the Omicron variant?
I'm not completely sure I understand the question.
As COVID has become a wave across the country, the Guard was activated to try to provide relief for some of the civilian hospital overflow.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking ahead and thinking, if the wave that they're looking at now, which has been in sort of some reporting, as well, combined with the accumulated exhaustion among the healthcare population, the civilian healthcare population, who are reporting, crisis levels among their workforce in some areas.
I think we talked recently in Michigan. The governor asked for Guard support to help out with some hospitals, and certainly governors can pull upon that capability if they need to. I'm not aware of any plans at the federal level to mobilize the Guard across the country due to Omicron. Nothing that we're actively planning for right now. But obviously we've done it in the past, back in the spring, mobilized both active duty and additional Guardsmen to assist communities all over the country with vaccinations. But again, I don't have anything to speak to today.
That's different. On that, the Omicron variant seems to be spreading pretty quickly, and maybe it's just a burst right now, but within people who are vaccinated, even people who have boosters, is the department considering options in case of workforce shutdowns? Are you planning for the case that maybe there's an Omicron outbreak on a carrier, for example, even if you have fully vaccinated force?
Well, certainly the services would be the best place to go for those kinds of contingency plans. We are obviously watching this closely, and we want to be ready for any eventuality. So we will do what we need to do for the protection of the force and the readiness of the force as it's required out there with what's going on with the pandemic. But I don't have anything specific today to talk to. We've done this before. We have been through this before, and we have had to adjust ship schedules and training exercises and telework and all manner of personnel policies based on surges in the pandemic in the past. We don't believe that we can take an eye off of that going forward, and that depending on where Omicron goes, it could have an impact on the force and on the way we train, resource, and operate. I don't have anything to speak to today, and each of the services will have a heavy voice in this because they know their operational requirements best. But we're watching that closely. I already got you.
Well, just to follow up. So, because the boosters do offer some protection against severe disease, I'm wondering if the specter of a rising Omicron wave might lend additional urgency to the need for reserve personnel to get booster, get vaccinated, get boosted, and all of that.
Again, we've talked about this. The Secretary right now fully encourages people who are eligible to get the booster shot. Absolutely. And there are discussions here at the Pentagon about whether or not it should be made mandatory. I don't have a decision to talk to today, but for those who are eligible, we absolutely want to see them get the booster shot. The science proves that the booster shot can absolutely help in preventing the disease, and if not in full out preventing, certainly minimizing the effects of it. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.